Thank you, Steve. I would like to begin by saying to all of you, thank you for being here, and thank you for the work that you do on an everyday basis. I know that often we don't say thank you to your diligence and hard work and your professionalism. We appreciate our coverage on campus, and especially here in the athletics department. I consider all of you friends and colleagues, and I'm very sincere when I say that. I get a chance to visit with you quite often. Part of being an athletics director, I get to sit in the background a lot and watch my coaches sit on the podium. And today's a little bit different, but I want to say very sincerely thank you. Appreciate the jobs that you all do and the professionalism that you exhibit. With that being said, I'll share a few comments with you, and then I'll open it up for questions. The safety, health, and well-being of our student athletes, fans, coaches, staff are the most important responsibility that we have in our athletics department. This COVID-19 issue is a very serious public issue for so many people. I pray for those that have been affected, and all my blessings go to their families as we move forward, and hopefully it becomes mitigated and eliminated at some point. In our athletics department, we have more than 500 student athletes, coaches, and staff, and the health and safety is important for all of them. Our counterparts, my counterparts in the SEC, have been together this week via telephone prior to that, and we made some decisions of the same mindset. I'm proud to be part of such a unified group in the SEC led by our commissioner, Greg Sankey. The decisions that we have made were made with as much information as possible and as expeditiously as necessary. The COVID-19 virus is fluid, with new information coming in all the time, which may cause decisions to be made or revisited. You probably saw earlier today the presidents and chancellors in the SEC unanimously approved a proposal from the athletic directors that we would suspend all activity, team and individual activities effective today through at least April 15th. By suspending these activities during this time and cutting back on in-person campus instruction, we're doing our best to reduce the chances that the coronavirus, COVID-19, will spread in our community. I know that this is disappointing to a lot of student athletes, coaches, and fans, but this decision has been made with an abundance of caution during the most difficult time. We've implemented a plan for all of our student athletes, coaches, and staff so that we can deal with the impact of these decisions, and we've communicated it to all of our student athletes, coaches, and staff. We have told our student athletes who are home to remain there and who are here that want to return home to do so. Our athletic facilities, including weight rooms and all of our facilities, will be closed during this time. We will be open at the Dodie Anderson Academic Enrichment Center for dining and academic services, and our athletic training rooms will remain open. You might have seen that the NCAA has granted a season of competition waiver for all the student athletes that were participating in spring sports, with more information to come. You also know that under the guidance of the SEC and NCAA, we've stopped all recruiting through April 15th on campus and off-campus recruiting. The pro day that was scheduled for April 19th has been canceled. Spring game on April 4th has been postponed. That rescheduling will depend upon if practice is rescheduled following our April 15th date. In the athletics department, certainly the people that have purchased tickets for our spring events will be refunded. More information to come with that. We continue to have conversations with our public health officials, and we remind everyone to be attentive to everyday preventive actions identified by the CDC. I know that our student athletes, coaches, and many administrators are disappointed right now. We provide great opportunities for our student athletes to grow and learn. This is one of those times that doesn't involve sport. We've been through tornadoes, floods, hurricanes. We have tragedies, catastrophes, and then many times sport is an outlet for those situations. But this is not one of those occasions. With that being said, I'll open it up for any questions.
Raise your hand. David first.
Right, looking at the SEC's guideline to cancel everything or suspend everything until at least April 15th, will there be a baseball, softball, any spring sports season?
It's way too early to tell. There's a lot that can happen between now and then. Certainly, this COVID-19 situation is fluid. You heard from the President of the United States today. You heard from our governor. We got 2 counties closed. Schools are closing. It's just to be determined. The situation is fluid.
Joe.
Given that the situation is fluid, have you guys assessed what the potential for the economic fallout might be for Gamecock Athletics because of suspension of play?
Well, certainly there will be economic impact, but that has not been our focus. Our focus has been the health and well-being of everybody involved, people that are in this community, in this city, in this state, and that's been our emphasis, and in particular on our student athletes. We were in spring break, as you know. It's been extended for a week, and then there will be some distance learning that will take place. So that has been our focus. The financial impact will be there, but that's not our main focus right now.
With everything being fluid, the NCAA basketball tournament, is that decision to cancel it finalized, or is there any chance that might be postponed?
My understanding is the men's and women's NCAA postseason basketball tournament has been canceled. Could that change? I can't answer that question. That would be an NCAA question. But our information has been it's been canceled.
Ray, with baseball, if assuming that they could come back after April 15th, would you play the existing schedule? Would you try to add more games? How would all that work by trying to fit in a full season?
Very interesting. I'm not sure how that would work. So you talk about the conference slate. It's a 30-game schedule, some non-conference games mixed in. So you would also need a little bit of time to get ready because right now we're inactive. So there's a spring training effect that would be necessary, if you will. So there are just more questions than there are answers. The focus right now, as I said, is the coronavirus and to try to get in a situation that we're doing our part on this campus and our student athletes are doing their part. And let's try to get this mitigated and eliminated.
Ray, you heard what Don said yesterday. Do you believe if there's no women's tournament that the women's basketball team should be named officially national champions? And if not, will you hang a banner or have any plans for that?
Well, I think it's too early to have those conversations, and not to be avoiding your question, but our focus has certainly been on the COVID-19 in the last few days. I will add that we were on quite a run, and if I'm not mistaken, we were 32-1. We're ranked number 1 in both polls, and we won the regular season title and the tournament championship. So we, in my mind, we're number 1.
Are athletes, I guess, being encouraged to do stuff if they're off campus to stay in shape, that kind of thing? Are they being discouraged to do, I guess, sports-related activities that involve multiple people? And you've been a coach. If you were still a coach, what would you be telling your athletes at this moment?
Well, what I would be telling them and what our coaches have been instructed to tell our student athletes is to make sure that their health and well-being is utmost importance. We're in a situation that you could have symptoms that you need to be treated for. So that has to be the focus. And, to tell them to go somewhere and train or stay in shape, that hasn't been the conversation. At least I hope that hasn't been the conversation, and I don't believe that has been. We're trying to make sure that our athletes have an opportunity to stay at home. They were on spring break, many of them. Some of them were here that have now departed, and that's where we'd like for them to be.
In terms of just contractual matters, if the coach was incentivized and had bonuses for making postseason play, how would those work if there isn't a championship? For Dawn Staley, if she has incentives for reaching the postseason and making it to a Final Four, how would those bonuses go into effect now with no championships?
Well, certainly she has already reached some of her incentives. I know that for a fact. How we address that going forward is a question. and that hasn't been a focus at this point. It will be at some time going forward, but not yet.
I'm curious, I know the concern again is on the well-being of everyone in the community and the student athletes. Just from an emotional standpoint, just how tough has it been to make these decisions that are in the best interest and welfare of the community and student athletes, at the same time watching the student athletes' opportunities to compete kind of slip out of their hands at this point in time?
Well, like some of you, we were in Greenville, we were in Nashville, and we watched it unfold. It's unprecedented. I mean, I know we had the tornado in 2008 for the men's basketball tournament, but it's very difficult to be a part of that, and you don't have a lot of answers. As I said earlier, being a part of the SEC and my colleagues, we were unified in trying to get to a good place. We were in consultation with a lot of other leagues across the country and different people, and we have a tremendous commissioner in Greg Sankey, and it was hard. I mean, you're thinking about lives, you're thinking about a community, you're talking about play, and what's most important is not play. It is as much as that's what we do. We compete and we play games, but at this time, we realize that this is not part of the discussion. What do we need to do to make sure that we're implementing standards and protocol on our campuses with our student athletes to do the right thing with this horrific COVID-19?
All right. The word, of course, with the spring athletes being able to give them an opportunity to be able to come back next year. I know people have been asking about winter sports. It seems like logistically that might be a little bit more difficult. Have you been able to get into those discussions at all?
Have not. I mean, I think, we've had some offline about the winter and the spring and those kind of things, but it's just been offline conversation with some of my colleagues. I was glad to see the NCAA took a step already with the spring sports, but that has to be defined too. It's not as easy as saying they'll be granted another year of eligibility. There's incoming recruits and so forth, 6-year people, if you will. The winter sports, I would have been okay if in some capacity that would have been included as well. Time will tell. Again, we're talking about competition, we're talking about games, and I understand that as part of why we're here today, but our focus is on getting our student athletes in the proper place right now to help do their part in diminishing the spread of the coronavirus.
To your knowledge, have any of your student athletes been tested, or whether positive, negative, and what will be the protocol moving forward if someone needs to be tested and quarantined and beyond?
If you have symptoms, and this has been instructed to our student athletes, if you have symptoms, you're to contact the trainer. Trainer will contact the doctor, and you will be tested. You will see a physician to see if a test is necessary. So there's a protocol in place. We have one athlete that came from a level 3 zone that is in quarantine at the present time. It's a self-quarantine, asymptomatic, if you will. So that one student athlete that I know of, and one student athlete that I'm aware of that has been tested.
Is that the same person, or just one?
No, two people. One hasn't been tested, self-quarantine. One has been tested.
Have you guys taken any steps or looked at anything involving supporting arena or stadium workers who might be out of work, given the stoppages?
That has been part of the conversation, but we don't know where we'll end up yet. The university, you may be referring to people who work events, but the university remains open. The way that we're treating our student athletes and our students on campus has changed dramatically in the last couple of weeks, but that conversation has entered the picture. I'm on a committee on campus, but we haven't gone very far with it at this point.
My question was about if you guys were even discussing the winter sports being able to come back in, how the scholarships will be allocated and stuff like that. Obviously, it's early on right now with that, but would you be in favor of a waiver for seniors that possibly would love to come back for one more season if that is an option for winter sports that the NCAA discusses?
Did you refer to winter sports?
Correct.
I would be an advocate. I know that, there were some teams that had finished their season. There were other teams that were not finished, and there were teams that were going to postseason tournaments. I would be an advocate if we could come up with the proper solution. I know it's not easy, but I would certainly be an advocate if we could do that.
Ray, is there any kind of deadline that you have to have after April 15th going into the summer, that you have to have your spring practice closed? Or are those mitigating circumstances considering what's happening?
Well, again, I'll go back to the word fluid. It is fluid. I'll tell you that from the Southeastern Conference standpoint, the athletic directors are talking every single day. We have protocol and a time that started this morning, and we will have conversations every single day as developments change, and we'll be on top of it.
Have you been in contact with Construct Construction about the work being done at Williams-Brice, and will these health concerns, pause any work being done at the stadium?
I have not. That's a great question, but I haven't talked to Greg Hughes with Contract Construction.
Was there any piece of information that led to the April 15th date that said that's the right amount of time, or is that just what you landed on in terms of an abundance of caution?
I think that's where we landed based on when we analyzed where we were and talking to other athletic directors and what's going on their campus, that we moved, if you will, a few days beyond March 30th to April 15th with an abundance of caution in mind.
Has the NCAA or the SEC made any sort of medical staff available to consult? Have y'all been able to consult directly with medical folks in these conversations?
Yes, and we're all consulting with our local health officials, certainly following protocol CDC, and the conference is doing the same thing. So we're sharing information, and different universities in different states.
Was there any particular tipping point or, I guess, piece of information that kind of came to you guys that made you make the jump from canceling just intercollegiate events to also canceling workouts, practices, and team activities as well?
I don't know that there was any particular point we got to, but as this situation evolved, it just became apparent that the urgency became greater, if you will. And being a part of the group, we started with, we're going to have games, to go into a place where it's going to be family only, and then we got to a place that wasn't going to work either. So we're trying to make sure that we do everything possible to do our part as people in college sports at intercollegiate level to partake in the elimination of this virus.
From a personal standpoint, your training when you were thinking about becoming an athletics director, how do you prepare for something down the road like this?
Didn't see it in the manual, Reggie. So, it's but the thing that you realize when you're in a situation like this is people do care, and as much as we do compete, I used the word united earlier, and that's what it was. We sat together for days in Nashville together trying to come up with a solution that would be the right thing for our student athletes, for our universities, for our fans, for our coaching staffs. And I feel like we've made a good decision to this point. Will we have sport as we move forward? Maybe we will. I think we probably all hope we do. But if we don't, it'll be the right thing.
It seemed like Commissioner Sankey was taken off guard with some of the announcements that were made yesterday with relation to the College World Series and so forth. With the eligibility deal next year, as far as balancing rosters go and scholarship numbers, do you feel like the NCAA will do a better job or approach differently the conversation with commissioners or its institutions or schools, or do you think they will make their own decision just like they did with the World Series?
Well, I would hope that communication would be different. I know some people have been outspoken. You heard what the commissioner had to say. We were not aware that the spring sports championships were going to be brought into play until you were aware. We found out at the same time you did. So that's that's not the position that we'd like to be in. I mean, certainly from a commissioner standpoint, there should have been involvement.
Have you gotten any indication that the NCAA will take commissioner opinion into the next round of decisions?
I haven't been given that information, but there's different commissioners in different conferences that, as I said earlier, they found out when you found out, and when I found out. So I don't think that was appropriate. That was the course it was taken. So communication is key.
Speaking of the College World Series, what was your reaction to hearing that would be canceled?
Well, my reaction, when I saw that, I paused. I said, that's down the road a piece. Was it necessary to take that action now? And it's the same way I felt about Oklahoma City and the Women's College World Series. And then I started thinking about, where does tennis, golf, what are their dates? And did we need to move this quickly? And I'm not one to say that it was a wrong decision, but my first thought was, we're taking action with the NCAA men's and women's basketball tournament. That was imminent. They took action. My personal thought was, we could have paused and revisited the spring sport championships at another time.
Right, a bit of a two-parter here. You mentioned that one athlete has been tested for COVID-19. Have you gotten a result from that test?
No.
And when do you expect one?
Not exactly sure. It takes a few days, or you hear all kinds of things. 48, 72 hours. I do not know.
And also, you mentioned that there could be a discussion maybe about honoring the women's basketball team as a potential national champion. If that were to happen, would Dawn get all the bonuses, in her contract for a national champion?
You're asking some very difficult questions, and I'm not trying to be elusive. I think that Coach Staley will tell you that our relationship is strong, and she's been treated very well here in her personal situation, and it won't be any different now. So,
One more, if I could. I mean, were you to raise a banner, have a parade, whatever, credit yourself as a national champion, would you be afraid of any blowback, such as a UCF national championship in football kind of situation?
I haven't given that a lot of thought. There probably would be blowback. I'm not one to be concerned about a lot of things like that, quite honestly. So we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But we're extremely proud of what Coach Staley and her team have accomplished. We're disappointed that we can't continue, but we understand and she understands. And we'll deal with that situation at a different time. But we're not done with it.
What have conversations been like with the other spring coaches, and have there been any expressed frustration about canceling things and just not postponing it?
I tell you, I think some of the coaches that I spoke with, they're really shocked. It's something that we haven't experienced before, and it's like, what do we do now? See, we first started out. If you saw this, we first came out that we would be allowed to practice. There would be no games or competition, but you could practice. And we quickly got past that. So now there's no activity at all. And they were surprised, but they wanted to do the right thing. What's the right thing to do? And that where we are is the right thing to do is to be at home or to vacate.
Does the athletics department have access to coronavirus tests at the moment? If they come to you, do you have the test on site that you can test them?
Not in the athletic department.
Do you have a place to send them?
Well, I'm told that test kits are available if recommended by a doctor, but that's not going to be specific to student athletes. I mean, that's you read things, you see things. There are not enough test kits. I'm told that at this point where we live, the test kits are available, but you don't walk in. You can't walk into a doctor's office and say, I want to be tested. You have to have symptoms to be tested. So
You guys aren't testing people. They're outside doctors are doing whatever tests might be done.
correct. I mean, our team doctors certainly would be involved in anything that we do. And as I mentioned the protocol earlier, a trainer, doctor, and a decision will be made whether a test is necessary or not.
All right, with the extended spring break and the addition of taking online classes, what have you guys done as an athletic department to be able to help some of those students who it might not be as easy because maybe they live pretty far away, they might not have access to the internet as easy as some other student athletes?
Absolutely. We've had those conversations today. And not everybody necessarily will be off campus. I think a large population will be off campus, but some will probably be here and have access to the Academic Enrichment Center. Don't know those numbers yet. Again, we got another week of spring break, and we're working through the situation to see how each individual stacks up in this process and where they are. I don't know for sure. I can't speak for the university. I don't think that every course on campus has the capability of being online either. So those things are to be worked out.
I'm sure you don't have the answer for this, but the situation is fluid. But if there does come a time this spring sports calendar where it's deemed possible for athletes to play, whether it's in a golf tournament or a baseball series or what have you, would you be in favor of that competition being allowed to happen and still maintaining the year of eligibility? Have you all had any conversations about that at this point, sort of an exhibition kind of season to keep players sharp or to compete?
We have not had that conversation, and you bring up a point that probably will be addressed, hopefully at some point, because if we're in that position, then we probably have a pretty good handle on COVID-19. Would be my indication that then we would have to make some decisions athletically. I hope that's where we land, where we have to decide if we're going to cost a young person their eligibility or not, or if it's going to be considered just competition and you get your eligibility back. I hope we get to that point that those decisions have to be made.
Have you thought about it? Would you be in favor one way or the other? Do you have thoughts one way or the other?
I'm student athlete centric. So I'm all about making decisions that benefit student athletes.
Ray, you have meetings with all of your coaches after every one of their seasons. Now that some of them have been severely curtailed, how do you handle that as an athletic director? Does it just everybody kind of gets free pass to next year, or do you have to sit down and talk with them after 2 games, 14 games, 20 games, whatever?
Well, I think it's certainly different for different sports. We had our fall sports that are complete. And then, our basketball teams were going to continue to play, at least in my estimation. They were going to continue to play. And then the spring sports, we're not even, I guess women's softball got into conference play. Baseball did not. So it's a different discussion. There's no question about it.
Coach, I know you said earlier that revenue wasn't a focus in these decisions, but I was just curious with regards to the women's basketball team, if there was any insurance policy or contingency plan with regards to those first 2 NCAA tournament games that were going to be hosted here?
Well, I'll try to give you a quick summary of how that works. It's an NCAA event that is merit-based. All indications are that we would have been hosting the first and second round. Well, it's not guaranteed, but indications are being the number 1 team in the country, you're going to host. That's an NCAA event. So that 75% of that revenue goes to the NCAA. After expenses, and then we would get as a host an honorarium of 25%. I hope my memory serves me correctly. Somebody over there may be saying he's wrong, but that's the case there. So that would not be a significant financial hit for us. But again, this is a very serious situation with the coronavirus, and that has been our focus on hopefully. This country goes through a time that other countries haven't had the benefit, that it's been detrimental and deathly. And we've had issues certainly in our state already in 2 counties and been highlighted. So that's been our focus. And revenue is it's a real thing, but that's not what we're focused on.
We've seen a lot of student athletes, post to social media about how heartbroken they are, their seasons are over. Did you have any student athletes that were pretty vocal about being scared to go out there and compete?
There were some conversations because I guess 48 hours ago we got teams moving. You got tennis, golf, baseball, softball. You got teams moving, and this wasn't just on our campus because I was with the other athletic directors. We were having a conversation in the room. The phones were ringing, so we're talking to our coaches and. one coach is saying, should I hold? Should I go? Should I turn back? What's the situation? There were athletes that were concerned that we're going to continue to play, or the basketball tournament got canceled. Are we moving, or are we going to come home? So there was some concern from coaches and student athletes that we're not sure we want to continue in the current state. Others, we're ready to go. So, but it was mixed. All right. Thank you. I appreciate it.